Good evening, Cubes of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joined every Tuesday, as always, my right-hand man, Rob, with the fattest stacks of comics in the land. Rob, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm just dancing the night away.
I saw you were pulling your other co-host move today, sliding in under the buzzer.
I was complete. I was
Pulling a
recording
Chris the Comic
videos.
bet on me.
I was recording videos, and then I was putting things into my inventory, and then I got distracted on a rabbit hole, going, "Ooh, I should buy some more of these things." And then so I was like going to 17 different websites, comparing prices and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, oh crap!
It's
It's time for Gary B show. So here I am.
nice. And of course, our guest tonight, making his second appearance on the 1011. We have Tony from Comiverse. Tony, how you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I hope everybody's having a great evening. How y'all doing?
Doing well, and we'd like to shout out that DVH, Dr. Von Hoot shirt you got on there.
Yep, this was a birthday AOK from DVH.
That is a lot of Dr. Von Hoot on the shirt. I'll tell you that.
So, Tony, as I like to do on my shows, give the quick introduction of yourself. Then we'll go say hi to the chat, and then we'll come back for your first book.
All right. Well, my name's Tony Gross, and like I said, I've been collecting comics since 1987, and just never really quit. I love reading comics. I've always liked reading. Like I said in the other episode, reading's always been a big thing for me. The first book I ever read was Dracula when I was 9 years old. And about 12 months ago, I decided to start a channel. And I said, well, there might be a couple people that might be interested in my videos. And I've been humbled by the fact that, 230 something subscribers later and 200 videos later, and people are really enjoying my stuff. And really, I never really thought that the comic spotlights would hit, but everybody seems to like those too. So I've just been having a ball.
Oh yeah, comic history is always fun, and you do a good job with those.
Yep.
All right, so let's say hi to our chat. First in, as always, the man with the plan, Las Cruces, who got his own shirtless shout out last Saturday on Coffee and Cosplay on our morning Saturday show. We have Hope Collector Kevin. How you doing today, Kevin? Nice to talk to you and see you again.
He wrote home and told his mother about it. Hey, Mom, guess what? Gary shouted me out while topless.
Actually, he said thank you so much for the shirtless shout out. Don't worry, Rob, your day's coming.
Oh, I will make sure I tell my mom.
I'll make sure I blow that up on Instagram for you just so you don't miss it.
Yeah, make sure you let me know. I want to let my parents have plenty of time so they can tune in and see.
See, Mom, I'm not the only pasty white guy out there. Oh, Steve White, how you doing? Joe, how you doing tonight, sir? Nice to see you. Psychedelic Comics, Paul, nice to see you, sir. DVH himself, he knew you were wearing a shirt. He had to be here.
Actually, I didn't tell him.
Couching and Slouching with Steve Bizzle, how you doing tonight, sir? And we are repping the Spiral Dimension. Yes. All right. So we've said hi to the people that have joined us so far, and we'll keep saying hi as people pop in. But Tony, for your second go around, man, let's see that first book.
All right. So the first book, I wanted it to be special. And I think the first time I showed the first comic book I ever collected. So this is my first slab. Technically, it should have been my second slab that I ever got, but I'll get to that story with book 2. So I found this for $30 on eBay. It is one of my absolute favorite Spider-Man stories ever. And it's Amazing Spider-Man 248, the kid that collects Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
And I've got it in slab and
raw.
Still got a nice little raw copy too. But yeah, there's something about this story that, when I first started collecting, everybody's like, oh, okay, Tony, you should collect Spider-Man. I was like, okay, well, I will be collecting Spider-Man. And then I started collecting Amazing Spider-Man. They said, you need to find a kid that collects Spider-Man. I went, okay. And I just fell in love with that story.
I think that's an issue of Spider-Man I've never read, actually.
And it's really cool because at the beginning, there's 2 stories in there. The first one's like continues from the last issue where he's fighting Thunderball, and Thunderball's got all the Wrecking Crew weapons. That's a pretty good story, and then it leads into the kid that collects Spider-Man. And actually, I don't want to spoil it, Gary, but if you really want to go back to my comic spotlights, the very first video I ever did was for that book.
Oh, I'll have to go watch it.
And you'll be able to
Kevin's
tell.
never either.
You'll be able to tell if you watch that first video that I have really came up on the comic spotlight, because I consider it primitive now, considering what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I don't like watching my first ones. That's for sure. I avoid watching anything I did when I first started. It's it's not even doing respect to the word cringy. It's way past that. All right, Tony.
Yeah.
And shirtless but shirtless shout outs isn't.
Oh, that's a whole other form of classy.
Well, before I get to the next one, though, I'll say that if you've never read the book, I highly recommend it. ASM 248. Nice. It's a high one on my list.
And
okay.
Rob,
yeah,
that was cheaper than cosplay, because I was like, oh, why don't you cosplay every episode? I'm like, you know what? I'll just take my shirt off. That's cheap. It doesn't cost me anything to take a shirt off.
That's what you tell the. Well, never mind.
I rather. All right. Go ahead, Tony.
Book number 2 should have been my first slab I ever got, because I actually won this one. And back when I was just watching YouTube and not actually making videos, I discovered Coffee and Comics with Bueller and Bob. And they were doing a giveaway leading up to their 100th episode of the Coffee and Comics show. And I actually won this from them.
Ronnie boy.
It just so happens the ASM book got in before this one. And that is a nice shiny foil cover of Batman Adventures 12. It's I believe it said it was like a Dallas Fan Expo.
Yeah, it's one of the convention reprints.
But this was I'm trying to get away from the glare, but I don't think there's nothing I can do about that.
With foil, it's tough.
Right? Yeah, it's a losing battle.
But yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be, up until Rob may roll his eyes, and I'm sorry if he does. Up until this point, as far as slabs go, I never saw the point. But when you actually have one, your attitude changes real quick.
Once you hold one in your hands, it's a whole different ball game.
Oh yeah, now 24 slabs later, I'm still
nice.
I've sent books in, I've bought them, but yeah, and I always, every time I get to talk to Bueller online, whether it be chats or whatever, I always like to tell him I still got it, and if he's watching, he can see I still got it.
Nice, and a good win, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got the actual story in reprint, so I mean I can always read it when I want.
Oh yeah. There's no shortage of reprints for that, so that's always nice. All right, number 3.
Yeah. All right, number 3. I guess you could say it's for Gary, but counting my facsimile, I have exactly 3 issues of Conan in my Conan the Barbarian collection. I have a facsimile issue 1. And actually, no, I take it back. I got 4, counting that special. But this was the first Conan book I bought, and that was issue 100.
Yeah, great John Buscema, Ernie Chan cover.
I have not read it yet, but I know y'all talked about that this was supposed to be the death of Belit.
Oh yeah,
and
based on the short story "Queen of the Black Coast" by Robert E. Howard.
See, I didn't know that. I did. I heard y'all mention the death of Belit, and I didn't even know who Belit was. So, but I'm still looking forward to reading it. I've got it in my read pile.
Steve, just wait till you get to 1,000.
Right. Yeah, it's a great. And with that, Roy Thomas had took that one story and he made a 3-year arc out of it in the Conan comics. So from 58 to 100. He filled in this whole 3-year time period that Conan and Belit were supposed to spend together.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm getting blown up by my kid. I have to take a call.
Okay, you're fine. All right, number 4, sir.
All right, number 4. Now, beginning this year, I made a list. I made a video of my goals of 2023. Now, this is August. Now, if you count all the facsimile editions and the dollar books I bought this year, of books that were in my go list, I'm killing it. I really am. You take away all those, and it leaves me with one. So I picked this up for fairly cheap. Honestly, never thought I'd ever get it, but this is Tales of the Teen Titans number 44.
Oh, nice.
The what is it? The first appearance of Dick Grayson as Nightwing, and I believe it's like there's something to do with this character named Jericho, and I believe this is supposed to be the origin of Deathstroke as well.
Now, what made you think you would never get that issue?
Because I don't know, man. To me, okay, my whole train of thought was it's the first appearance of Dick Grayson as Nightwing, so that book has got to be expensive. And I'm one of these type of people that thinks $100 is expensive. You know, when you're getting
Right.
groceries for the family or whatever, you know, you have to weigh your options. But yeah, I got this for like $30. When I seen how much it was, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on this
Oh yeah,
because
30 bucks.
you ought to, I mean, like I said, I'll make assume Dick Grayson Nightwing. That's a big thing, so that's got to be a big money book. And I was surprised to see that at the time when I bought it that it wasn't. So I mean, like I
DC
said,
has some quite affordable keys out there from their Bronze Age up.
I've
Even
learned that with this last week with the first issue of the first ongoing Green Arrow. But that's a sermon I can say for another day because that still blows my mind at how cheap that book is.
even they have a decent number of Silver Age keys that are too. But for that matter, I'm also finding some of the Marvels are too. If you just, it's amazing. There's certain ones that are super expensive because everybody seems to want them. But if you drift just slightly into the other lane, there's a ton of stuff that's available out there at really good rates.
Oh yeah, 'cause I want to get that. I got my eye at the comic shop. I'm gonna get that first Mordred now that that's dropped back down in price again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good one. All right, number 5, sir.
All right, number 5. Now I could have easily went with Punisher number 1, but I wanted to show off the very first Punisher book I ever bought and read in my collection, and that is Punisher number 10.
Oh, nice him and Daredevil cover.
Yeah, and it was the cover that made me buy it because at the time, you know, you figure I didn't know I didn't know a lot about, you know, when I was started collecting, I didn't have people to help me or tell me this is this person, this is whoever, and I see this Punisher guy, and I'm like, well, who the heck is this? And so I bought it, and it really captivated me because at the time the story involved them going after this guy that was lacing aspirin bottles with cyanide, and that was like ripped from the real world
Yep.
storylines. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
remember. Yeah.
and I'm not for sure what issue number it is, but there's an issue of Daredevil that I believe tells the same story, but it's from Daredevil's point of view.
You are
But
correct, Steve. Now's a good time to find deals.
And Joe, those are words to live by.
yeah,
Rob
yeah,
just wants to hear that from his wife one time.
Yes, please tell my wife. Please tell my wife.
Just once. He's not asking for much. Just once.
yeah. I've always enjoyed this book.
So you didn't find the Punisher with Spider-Man? You found him in that book?
Well, actually, no. That was the first ongoing book because when I picked up Marvel Tales, I
Right.
picked that up about the same time I picked up the Marvel Tales where they reprinted ASM 134, and you see his boots, and you're like, who the heck is this? And then, of course, I got that book, and then I got 135. And, you know, at the time I was confused. I didn't realize that Marvel Tales was a reprint series. Because,
Oh
like
yeah.
I said, I was 13 and just starting. So, I mean, if it had Spider Man on it, I snagged it. And,
But the Marvel
Nice.
tales were great ways, especially then, to be able to get and read those stories without, you know, granted they weren't expensive, but you couldn't necessarily always get the back issues and stuff the same way that you can today. It was only your local shop was the only thing you had available to you. What they had was what they had, and those books were more expensive than a kid could afford, even if they weren't expensive by today's standards. So they
yeah.
were great ways to get access to those. And some of those Marvel tales, they're starting to gain appreciation. They're starting to get some
They
value
are.
if you care about value, but they're still great reads.
And
Yeah.
some of them I just like some of them they even had covers that I liked more than the original.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Same with like the X-Men classic stuff like that. Some of those covers I like more than the original cover.
Yeah, I realized when I was looking at my list, I didn't realize that I had almost 100 issues of Marvel Tales now. I was like, wow.
Oh, let's work on that run. Let's kill it.
Right.
Hey,
Hey, and Tony, a good read's a good read. It doesn't matter how you read it.
exactly.
All right, number 6, sir.
All right, number 6. Now we're going back to DC. And once again, I don't have a lot of Lobo books. I don't have any of the key books. I've kept this book. At one point in time, I had 5 copies of this book. No particular reason. It is just my favorite fun little read that I just get a kick out of reading every time I read it. And I'm talking about the Lobo Convention Special. I mean, how can you not love a book where Lobo's going to go try to find him a copy of Superman 75? He goes to the San Diego Comic Convention. He's got the Navy sitting outside the doors, ready to shell the place. I mean, it is hilarious as heck.
It sounds pretty zany.
It is. I mean, it is. And like I said,
Timothy.
at one point in time, I had 5 copies of this book. So I mean, but yeah,
And I've never seen that book actually.
I have a Harley Quinn version, but not the Lobo version.
But yeah, I mean, you'd think I have more Lobo books, and I probably should. But
is that you put the cover? You got a copy. It's got Lobo Comics, which is doing a cover. Looks like a cover steal from actually Marvel Comics one.
Yeah,
and then you got the Action Comics one and some Batman. Okay, cool.
I love right down here by his feet. It says Captain Bastage.
Yeah, exactly. So we took some Marvel stuff on the cover as well. Nice.
Right. I think there was an Avengers 1 down there too.
Is it? Yeah.
So yeah, some equal. They got which is cool that they did 2 Marvel homages along with the 2 DC homages for it being a DC book.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, that like I said, I don't know why I love that book so much, but I just do.
There, you just cost DVH money. He's never heard of that book, and now he must read it.
It's only a couple bucks, DVH. It's not going to break the bank.
All right, number 7.
A couple bucks in the U.S. In the UK, it's going to cost them 20 quid plus shipping plus.
You got a point, Rob. Okay, now I wanted to show y'all my oldest X-Men book, but every time I look at it, I bought it this way. My cousin bought it that way. Somebody took a Sharpie and just colored in the logo and stuff. But instead, I'm going to show you my second oldest X-Men book that I got in the same deal. This is X-Men 19.
Oh, nice.
The first, I believe this is the first Mimic. Because there was always something about this character Mimic that I always really enjoyed. I'm trying to remember his name. It was Calvin.
And that looks like it's in real good shape too.
Yeah, it actually is. I want to get it. I'm gonna have my buddy Greg press it, and I may send it, get it graded. But I keep thinking his name was Calvin Rankin or Calvin Robbins. I don't remember the Mimic's real name. But I actually flipped through and read this, and I really enjoyed it.
Fans, light up the comments. Let us know.
Right, and don't let Eddie, Old Man Collectibles, see you got that in that good a shape. You'll be getting a phone call. Eddie's he's a real big X-Men collector.
Well, I remember in the last video you told me Santa Rob was going to come down my chimney for one of the books I had.
Well, you know that cover of Spider-Man where Santa has a gun? That's the kind of Santa
I've got that
up at your house for a book.
If Rob shows up with a gun, he can have it.
Matt Woods?
Actually, goodness. I was going to say, if he wants it that bad, all he's got to do is bring a rack of ribs, and we'll do a trade.
There you go. Now, Rob, he didn't say they had to be ribs you cooked, so you could just.
Oh, I wouldn't do anything other than that. That's disturbing. I don't go buy freaking. Oh.
We're sending Rob down a spiral over there.
Yeah,
not a spiral dimension.
A spiral dimension.
Yeah, so saying yes, 19 is the first Mimic. Now the real question though is, guys, light it up. What's the name of Mimic? His real name, his civilian name, his people name.
Yeah.
Just call me Joe.
I believe, like I said, I believe his first name was Calvin, but I don't remember his second name.
Wasn't that like the title of the working story title of the last Ditko Spider-Man? Was they just call me, or a man named Joe or something like that?
Oh, it might have been.
I think you're right. Okay,
Yeah,
somebody
Calvin
said,
Rakin. Yeah.
Steve White's got it. Calvin Montgomery Rakin.
Well,
okay.
he's answered. We're going to assume that he's right. We don't know because we were asking the question ourselves, but let's assume that he did the research and
Right. Or Steve's got quite the collection. He might actually have that issue. All right, number 7, sir.
All right, so the next two kind of go hand in hand as being these are the two oldest ASM books I have, but I'm going to start with the highest one first.
All right.
I got these both from my comic shop for $30 a piece separately. I don't have the Death of Gwen Stacy. I have it in facsimile. One of these days, I hope to have the first prints because those are 121 and 122 are my Grail books. 122 is my birthday book. But I don't have the death of Gwen Stacy, but I do have the death of her father.
Captain Stacy.
Captain Stacy.
And to me, I actually got to read this story the first time through Marvel Tales when they redid it with the Todd McFarlane cover. And just that part where he tells Peter to set him down and just starts talking to him like, he knew the whole time that he was Spider-Man. And that would just blew me away. I need to get the issue before this because I know it ties into it with Doc Ock.
Just a guy named Joe. That's the name of the last Ditko. Sorry.
But I seen this for I seen this for a good price, so I had to pick it up. So I mean,
now in Spider-Man books, the one thing you don't want to be is a captain. Captain Stacy, Captain Gene DeWolf. They don't meet good ends.
They just covered that in the Spider-Man movie Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah, they did. That's right.
Yeah, every Spider-Man has a captain that must die.
Right.
That's messed up.
Oh man.
I know.
So because I liked Captain Stacy a lot, and I really did like Captain Gene DeWolf a lot too.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually sad to see both of them go because I thought they brought a lot to the title when they were in it.
Yeah. What I think is unique about the comic death of Captain Stacy versus the death of him in the Amazing Spider-Man movie was, I know in the movie he made Peter promise to leave Gwen out of it, but in the comic, all he did was made him promise that he'd take care of her.
Right. And promises you can't keep are the best promises of all.
Yeah, well,
just quoting the movie.
I know. I was gonna say 32 issues later, you find out that he didn't keep that promise to Captain Stacy. Or 31 issues later,
he tried.
He did.
You got an A for effort, but you still failed the class, kid.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, number 8.
Captain America better stay out of Spider-Man.
Wait, or did you have a part 2 to that one?
No. This goes with. Hold on a second. This should be number 9, right? I'm losing count.
No, you're on number 8. So we got ASM.
No, that book should be number 1.
Batman Adventures 12, Conan 100, Tales of the Teen Titans 44, Punisher,
ASM 240. Yeah.
Lobo, Death of Captain Stacy.
And ASM 248 was the first one.
ASM 240. Okay, I missed that one. All right, I was talking. Yep. All right, I'm sorry. Number 9.
All right.
Thank you.
And this one was another, like I said, buy from my comic shop. This one is a little bit of a lower grade, but I couldn't pass it up, and I'm sure I've seen it on somebody else's episodes of 1011. And it's ASM 42. It's got a nice subscription increase in it.
Yeah, yep. Ladies and gentlemen, hit him with what that key is.
First, would it be the first full appearance of Mary Jane Watson?
Well, it's considered technically another cameo, but it's the first time we see her face, and it's the first time she utters those famous words.
Face it,
Tiger. You just hit the jackpot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that. It's so weird because you remember certain points in your history with comics, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that panel and seeing Mary Jane's face.
And that was it. Yeah. After that, I was in love.
But yeah,
As
like
a,
I was a kid and I legit remember just seeing that panel and like, ooh,
yeah. So it's the first time we get to see her face and it's considered a cameo appearance in the spirit of the last page of Spider-Man 299 being a Venom cameo and Hulk 180 being a Wolverine cameo. We see them, they have dialogue, but it's only on the last page. If you were to take
Yeah.
that page out, it would not
affect
tremendously
the
affect the
story.
story. Ergo, it's a cameo.
Yeah. I'm just
But
glad to have it.
But you know, as a, as a
Nice.
as a MJ, as a huge MJ fan within ASM, and you know, I've go and collect. Made sure I one of the first things I did when I was started making my run was collecting every Mary Jane key. That book is one that I've had in triplicates and quadruplicates, and I've given away a couple copies, and I've gotten more copies to pull in. But it's always a book that's in you know there are high end copies out there, but for what I see in general in the populace where I'm out and about, there always seem to be, you know, mid grade is as best
Now,
as I can find regularly without doing like eBay and auctions and having to pay like stupid money.
before we get to the next book, I want to ask you both as Spider-Man fans.
Uh-huh.
What do you guys think of MJ as Jackpot now? I like the original Jackpot. I didn't want MJ to be Jackpot. Like she's best as the strong woman she is that holds that relationship together and make sure Peter doesn't crap
Correct.
out of life.
It's the stupidest. It's one of the stupider things they've done since breaking them up, and
Right.
it's she they belong together to show a that you can. It was there's nothing wrong with showing a strong, stable relationship
Correct.
instead of having to have constant turmoil and stuff. And she has always been his rock, the one that has allowed him, despite everything that he goes through, ever since she knew what she was getting into, has been the change from the party girl to Peter's rock, the one person he can confide in and keep him sane. That far more important than anything else in the stories.
I think so too. And you
Yeah.
and I have already talked about it. The stupid trope of every time there's a new writer, oh, let's break up Peter and MJ like it's something fresh. No, all you do is
Yeah.
make all your readers mad.
Exactly.
Like I am a diehard Black Cat fan. MJ's the only girl for Peter.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
And but that MJ Black Cat one shot, that first one from Beyond, had the best scene ever with those two at the end of Peter's bed. Peter's
Oh,
in the hospital. He comes to for a second, and MJ and the Black Cat are there talking to, and Felicia are talking to each other, and they're figuring out how they're going to save Peter. And Peter wakes up for a second, and goes, "Not this dream again. Please be gentle." And they look at each other, and the Black Cat says to MJ, "How did he ever land a couple of women like us?" Just so good, so great. And that's when I knew I was a big Jim's whatever Jed McKay fan. I'm reading too many Marvel writers right now. All right, number 10, Tony.
All right. Now, number 10, originally I was going to show off Amazing Spider Man 252, but since I have a cheap Toy Biz reprint and not the actual book, I decided not to because that's another book on the list I need to get. So I thought this one would be a little bit cooler. So about 2009, 2010, somewhere around in there, I went looking on eBay again for a copy of Amazing Spider Man Annual 21 with Peter in the Tux. No big deal. I found this for $30 and I got my copy, what I wanted, which is the annual. But this one came with a few extra things. This is what they call the Shea Stadium gift set. And when they did the live action wedding on June 5th, 1987, at the New York Mets versus Pirates game, it was in front of 45,000 people at home plate. They did the live action wedding where Stan Lee was the officiator, before the game. They did these gift sets, and I've heard one story that they handed them out. I've heard stories that they sold them for $100. But basically, you got the book, you got this nice little Met schedule. It came with a poster.
Oh wow.
And it all came bagged in this little plastic bag.
There you go.
It says, I caught Spider-Man's wedding June 5th, 1987, Shea Stadium. And the funny thing is I actually went and double checked and researched before I bought it. It was legit. And then I bought it. And like I said, I paid like 25, $30 for it. And to this day, I've never seen another one for sale on eBay.
And DVH says it's super cool, Tony. He loves stuff like that. Yeah, the oddities, I love them. They're so great.
But I mean, I was like, there was, I almost passed on it, but there was something telling me that if I passed on it, I'd never see it again. And apparently that was true because I've never seen it again.
Yeah, I just bought something like that on eBay yesterday. I was like, nah, I don't. I think I'll leave it alone. I'm like, I'm not gonna see that price again. Here we go.
Man, I could kick myself for passing up stuff. Man,
Sometimes you got to though.
well, sometimes I passed it up, and even when I had the money, but in 97, I had a chance to buy a Megatron, Generation 1 Megatron in a box for $100. I had the money, but I said, I ain't spending $100 on a toy.
Now
Right?
you wish you
Yeah.
did, right? But hey,
Oh, yeah.
hindsight is 2020. If we all had the wherewithal to buy or hang on to or anything else, we would have had very boring childhoods as we just got boxes and put them on the shelf and never played with our toys and everything else.
But we'd
It's
all be living in luxury houses from turning all
well,
this.
but then we'd all be sitting there going like, oh, but in another 20 years, it's going to be worth this.
Right?
Yeah.
It's unreal. It's
It's a catch.
unrealistic. Yeah, it's enjoy what you have now. Go ahead. If you have the money, get the things that bring you happiness. And if you don't work. Don't. It's not an arms race. Nobody's. It's not a competition or anything else. Live within your means. Collect within your means, and collect what you enjoy. And don't fall for hype. Get what Don't listen to talking heads unless they're telling you smart advice like don't listen to fucking talking heads. Pardon my French.
But that's in contrast to your other advice.
Right, I know.
Don't listen to you. You're just a fat man with a fat opinion.
I know I don't collect what you want. Don't listen to me though. I know I'm a dichotomy. I'm a complicated man, Gary.
Well,
But
this I know.
Hey, I got to take up for Rob a little bit because, he got me to looking for classic covers with bubble heads and ray guns. So, I mean,
yes, there you go.
Those are always fun. There's nothing that's not fun about bubble helmets and ray guns.
That's right.
All right, number 10, Tony.
number 10. This was
Oh no,
my
that was 10.
story.
I meant number 11. Sorry.
Yeah, this will be my story. I still don't think anything will beat my personal story from the first book time with in regards to my friend. But I bought this book this year. I love horror movies. I love action movies, just about every kind of movie. One of my favorites is westerns. And it's because it reminds me of when I was a kid, I used to watch westerns with my grandpa. On Saturdays,
Yeah,
12 o'clock, they would always play John Wayne.
right.
So this is the oldest comic in my collection. I just bought it this year after looking at it forever. It's my favorite John Wayne movie, and they had it for a comic, so I had to get it. And that is McClintock.
There you go.
Oh.
I love this movie. First time I watched it was after me and my wife got married, and I can watch this movie 100 times, and it'll never get old.
Nice.
And I love the fact that they actually made a Western comedy out of an adaptation of William Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew.
Now, who is it? Who is the woman opposite him in this?
That's Maureen O'Hara.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I remember that too. Every time I go to my grandfather's house, it'd be either John Wayne or Clint Eastwood westerns would be on the
Yep.
TV. And of course, the running joke was, well, actually, I take it back. Occasionally, there would be a John Wayne or a Clint Eastwood war film on, but it was the running joke was there was always the same movies over and over again. Not because he
Yeah.
liked them so much, but because he already knew the dialogue, and since he couldn't hear worth a darn.
Oh yeah. Makes
Oh, yeah.
sense.
Yeah, like I said, every time I watch this movie, it always reminds me of watching movies with Grandpa.
Nice.
And
There we go. Rob's ending to me. Preaches sound advice about collectible. Also presents a video catalog of stuff I must buy every Saturday night.
Yeah. I preach sound advice, but then proceed to not follow it.
yeah.
Now, is that something you still watch to this day, Tony?
Yes. Yes. It ain't nothing for me. Every once in a while, I'll get bored and I'll pop in a John Wayne Western or Clint Eastwood or just whatever. Young Guns, Tombstone. It
They
don't
were
matter.
the big ones, but I was always partial to Lee Van Cleef.
I liked Lee Van Cleef.
I just thought I just thought that dude was cool.
Yeah. He had something about him.
Yeah, he had presence.
What threw me off about Van Cleef was later on when he did the Master Ninja stuff with Shokazugi.
Oh yeah. I liked him as the master too, though.
Well, yeah, he was good. He was really good.
See, I always just like the Western with Cleavon Little and
yeah.
Oh goodness. All right. So let's see what that spec pick is, Tony.
All right. Well, I love doing specs, so
Right. Oh.
I figured I'd be different since the last time I said I don't do spec. Anyway, I did a safe one, with I was going to say IDW, excuse me, with Image and Skybound fixing to do the shared G.I. Joe Transformers universe, and maybe even hints that G.I. Joe and Transformers might mesh on the big screen. This is my spec pick. G.I. Joe Transformers #1.
Oh, nice.
From Marvel.
Especially with the Void Rivals out now and then
under
one roof.
Of course, this is the first time in comic books that they ever met, and they blew up poor little Bumblebee. But he came back as Go-Bug, so it's okay.
That's right.
Hey, they can always rebuild them if they can
make
the $6 million
make them stronger. Yeah, I was saying make them stronger, faster, better than before. The $6 million GoBot. I mean,
right? Transformer. GoBots were the knockoff, Rob.
That's why they made them stronger and better and faster.
Right.
The one thing that got me about this series wasn't so much the Transformers and stuff. If you've ever read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I can't even remember the kid's name, but it was the first time I'd ever seen Bombshell put a Cerebro shell in a human. And it was a little boy. And they ended up later on in another issue of this, they ended up having to do like brain surgery to get it out of him.
Wow.
Crazy.
But that was the first time, because you always see in the cartoons and stuff, Bombshell would put the Cerebro shell in another robot or whatever, but I'd never seen it in a human before. I think it almost killed the kid.
They also had the other weird little series, Headmasters. Which was
yeah, I love that one too. I always thought the introduction of the Headmasters in the comics was better than the cartoon. Of course, it didn't last after the rebirth.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with G.I. Joe and Transformers spec. You never know.
No.
Oh, thank you, Matt Woods.
The greatest series on YouTube.
And I think he's plugging his Matt Woods is on this Thursday on another 10-1-1. Before he has to go back to work next week and teach.
Yeah.
This summer is over.
Yeah, I know. I fly out on Thursday, take my kid back to university.
Is it part celebration, part darn?
Oh no, it's part celebration. Yeah, fly out there senior year. Not only does that mean do I get him out of the house, but it means I only got one more year worth of tuition payments.
Right.
Then you're gonna see some keys come rolling in.
Oh
well, that and I'm sure now that your kids are growing, you and the wife like to have the house to yourself now and then.
Damn straight. I always say it's my time now.
Right. I
still have another one in the house until end of September. Then they'll both be away.
Rob's gonna change the locks, put an alarm on the door. Guard dogs.
They don't know how to use a key.
Right.
Even when the door's unlocked, I get them knocking on the door. Can you let me in? Do you not know how to turn a doorknob? I thought I tried.
Rob, I'm glad my kid's not the only one that does that. So, like, when the ex will drop him off, he's at the door knocking. Dad, buddy, you have a key. Put it in your lock and turn it. You don't have to knock to come into your house.
The door's
Come on.
unlocked. And they come home and they can't they knock on the door. It's like, what happened? Well, it's unlocked. Well, thought I tried, but it wouldn't open. You have to turn the knob.
Right.
It's not a freaking auto opener. It's not the grocery store. My goodness gracious.
I'm watching this. Everyone's like, all their kids are going back. My kid doesn't go back till the second week in September.
It really just depends on where you're at and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, for the universities, like my kids are very different when they start, and they're also they're a month and a half apart from when they start and a month and a half apart from when they end, because one's on quarters and one's on trimesters. But as far as like public schools, some of the public schools out here in the West, they've been back to school since for a week already.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
because back when during some of the last big budgetary crises, a lot of them shifted their academic year slightly in order to put cost savings into one fiscal year and shift it to another. It was just a budgetary ploy to shift money and balance a budget. And now
And a
there's
shout out to all those teachers that use comic books in their classrooms.
that's right.
Yeah.
Now, Tony,
Yes.
before we go around the horn here, I want to ask you, making your second appearance, did you have a different approach? Like something different from your first time coming on?
Well, I tried to. I had I went back and watched the video to make sure I didn't repeat, because if I didn't, I'm sure I would have showed something I already showed again. And I couldn't figure out if I wanted to do just strictly vintage stuff or stuff I like. And I was like, well, why don't I just mix it up a little bit and do a little of both? And I mean, they're all books I enjoy. So
Right.
There you go.
that's it. But I mean, for me, I got 5,000 books, so for me to try to just pick 12,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Oh, it is. That's why you get to make multiple appearances. And so speaking of multiple appearances, the next two 10-1-1s are guys doing their second appearances. So
I'm
this
a trendsetter.
yeah, but we'll get to what I got coming up in a minute. First, we're going to go to Rob to see what Rob's got coming up this week.
Well, gee, thank you. Yesterday I dropped to my Monday mail call more key books that we bring into the PC. Thursday I have a CGC unboxing, 20 book submission, which means that I'm sure that there's something in there that's just going to disappoint me because CGC. So tune in to find out which one or which ones it is. Then on Saturday, Only Slabs, we have Dr. Von Hoot from the Comics from the Spiral Dimension. He'll be our guest on Only Slabs. And then we just start the whole schedule all over again.
Nice. All right. So coming up for me this Thursday, I already mentioned it. We have the Matt Woods on the 10-1-1 this Thursday night. So it'll be great to see what Matt brings the second time around. And Matt, if you guys don't know, he's a vast collector. Everyone sees him as a Conan guy. He's got way more than that. Matt's got books from all over the place. He's a big time collector with an impressive collection. And then we got another guy next Tuesday who's known for slabs. So we'll see what he brings if he brings Roz next week. We are, of course, talking about his second appearance. Rob, next Tuesday on the 10-1-1, making his second appearance.
Me?
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Did you forget you scheduled it?
No, I remember.
Oh, okay. Hey, you almost forgot to come on tonight, so it's plausible.
That's right. Maybe I'll take a nap next week and miss it all together.
Plus, parenting with kids going back and forth, it's easy to forget stuff like YouTube. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it.
And we also have Dope Comics coming on again in a couple weeks for his second go around.
Nice.
And so we got a lot of good stuff coming up. Of course, catch me Saturday morning on Coffee and Cosplay with Madam. Stephanie is Lady Death this Saturday morning, so you guys are going to want to tune in for that. And this Saturday morning, we have our first guest appearance by none other than the Matt Woods, who is making his way on every channel this week before school starts.
Making his way the only way he knows how. Wait.
Now, Tony, what's coming up for you, sir?
All right, so Saturday morning, I'm going to drop episode 31 of Tony's Comic Spotlight, which this week I'm doing a spotlight on All Star Comics #3, the first appearance of the Justice Society of America.
Ooh, Joe's gonna
Then,
love that one.
then next Monday, I'm going to be a guest on Scotty Vaughn's show, Comic Book Addicts. And then after that, the following Saturday on the 26th, my live show Into the Comiverse will return. I'm going to a bi-weekly schedule because of my internet issues at the house. I've been having to rely on mobile hotspots from my cell phone, and that takes up data. So I'm going to a bi-weekly schedule till I can get all that situated, and maybe, hopefully, especially if I can get DVH on the show for the 26th, I'm going to try to do a topic around Doctor Who because I've been wanting to do a Doctor Who episode for a while
Oh,
now.
nice.
Well, who's your favorite Doctor before we leave?
Oh, Tom Baker. But I grew up with Tom Baker, watching it with my aunt. And as far as the new show, it's David Tennant all day long.
Really?
Yep. Don't get me wrong though. I love Christopher Eccleston. I like Matt Smith. Hell, I love
Eccleston's
Peter
my
Capaldi.
favorite.
I love Peter Capaldi. But,
yeah. Well, Capaldi suffered from horrible writing. It was his
yeah,
problem.
I've only watched one
Eccleston
season.
did more
with
than
Jody.
one season.
I'll tell you, I like David Tennant, and I especially like him along with Billy Piper. But if I'm going to sit down and rewatch any of the new stuff, the run with Matt Smith and that is just the stuff with him and Professor Song and all the stuff just blows my. I love it. I'll watch it over and over and over again.
When I do that episode, I may even break out. My wife a few years ago knitted me a 12-foot scarf. So
nice.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, but I think the question you need to ask her is why she hasn't built you a TARDIS yet.
Well,
and a sonic screwdriver.
Maybe
I've actually tried to build one of those.
Maybe you can just order a honey bucket and call it the Turtis.
Right?
I got a little canine somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I love the old black and white ones where it was barely a show back then.
Mm-hmm.
Those old black, they're rough, but they're funny.
Yep. William Hartnell, man. I love watching those originals.
Well, boy, you never heard that one? That's my favorite. Is you take Winnie the Pooh, put a scarf on him, the thing, and you get a little honey bucket. And
Right?
It's Dr. Pooh and the Turtis. Yeah. It's the greatest.
Oh, goodness. All right. I want to thank our crowd tonight. Thank you guys for coming out to support Tony, Rob, and myself. Please, their links are in the description below. So if you're watching this on the rewind and you haven't subbed either of these fine gentlemen, please go down and consider it and check out their content. You won't be disappointed. Thank you, Rob, for being a co-host as always, sir. I appreciate it. And Tony, thanks for coming on for a second go around. A pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure being here, man. Anytime you want me, I'll show up.
And then, of course, as we like to end these things, keep it casual.